Next is Miocene and Pliocene, one track.
So this track is one of the tracks I wrote in our rehearsal room in Berlin, and I wrote it with the concept in mind that we wanted to give the album a little bit more of a different kind of theme in the second half, simplistic nature. So I worked with quite the repetitive patterns throughout the song. It's basically the same song structure twice repeated, so it also kind of reflects what the song is about.
The lyrics to that song are basically revisiting the idea of eternal recurrence, which is the red thread that goes throughout the whole Phanerozoic record, part 1 and part 2. Eternal recurrence is the idea that everything happens over and over again, an infinite amount of times in infinite time and space. It's a very old idea. It was found in old Egypt, India, ancient Greece, and also in the pre-Columbian cultures. And with the arrival of the Occident, it lost popularity because the determinism that is inherent in an idea of eternal recurrence didn't fly well with the monotheist religions and their idea of their concept of one unique creation made by one unique almighty God. Because how can something potentially be unique when it's repeating over and over again?
When we finished the vocals, we tried picking up that theme of repetition again, and also lyrically copied the lyrics basically twice to repeat itself again to fit the whole theme.
Phanerozoic is essentially a record about time and experience. Is time to be conceived of as a line that connects the dots in a linear way, or rather in a cyclical way, as a loop, so to speak? And what does that mean for our own lives and our experiences? If we think of intelligence as the capability to learn from our mistakes, is that even possible in a universe of eternal recurrence where the same things are doomed to happen over and over again, whether we like them or not? And yeah, these are some of the questions that this whole record is dealing with, and that the second part of the record is revisiting, particularly in this track. Pleistocene is a song about existential emptiness and depression. It's about a person who chose to die before the disaster came to take that choice for him or for her. And we're making a film for that track, which will likely be out before you will watch this. But I haven't seen it yet. However, since time is cyclical within the concept of eternal recurrence, I can still tell you a little bit about it because I have been in that future before. So it's basically, you know how animals are looking for a place to die when they know that their time has come. The film will be showing an old man that is that animal. He leaves his apartment in the city, takes a train out to the countryside, and at the train station he briefly encounters a woman. He finds himself a void in the ground, an abandoned dwelling, which is that place where he chooses to die. And then out of that void, the woman emerges that he has previously met at the train station, and she takes that journey backward into the city, where she meets with a man again, and looks up to the sky and sees the asteroid approaching. And then there is the impact moment, which I'm very curious how Craig will depict that. And that's pretty much the end of the song. Musically, this track is very, very eclectic. It's starting off with a relatively melodic and mellow beginning, quite catchy, and then that gradually evolves into like a proper black metal part at the end of the song. It's the first time we've done something like that on the record, but it just felt right here.
Holocene was one of the tracks that came to life at one of our favorite remote riding spots, basically. Peter brought a bunch of synthesizers with him and pedals, and we set that up nicely with a bunch of monitors. And whenever we felt creative, each one of us would find their private spot to work on new music. And this was one of the tracks I wrote there. I think I was not sober when I wrote this, so maybe that's how I found my creative juices there. And I tried to give it a little bit of a different vibe, because we were all listening to Ulver's album The Assassination of Julius Caesar back then, which we are all a huge fan of, and that gave me inspiration to write a very simplistic and straightforward track. Again, very repetitive, like mantra-esque rhythms and melodies, and the cello was recorded by our favorite cellist Dalai. She basically recorded all the cello parts for the Phanerozoic albums, and when we finished the vocals at that same place later on, we tried to bring back the lyrical themes which already appeared earlier in the album, to kind of glue everything together and give the album a red thread, basically.
To emphasize the whole eternal recurrence theme, there are a lot of cross-references on the record musically. So for example, the guitar pattern that appears for the first time in Jurassic reappears in Cretaceous, and then again in Eocene. And the lyrics of Triassic and some lyrics of Cretaceous, they also reappear in Holocene, in the last track of the record. So that was intentionally done. We wanted to emphasize the idea of eternal recurrence by repeating ourselves and putting parts that had appeared before into a new context. Obviously, it's not just like a copy and paste of a part. It's always like with a different drumming pattern or embedded into a different context. And that's something we've already been experimenting with a little bit on Pelagial, and that we've done a lot more on Phanerozoic too.